Hi again, folks. Martin Lena here from Orange Technology. And in this video, I want to talk about taking ownership of property that's been left with you. So this is kind of a contentious issue. A lot of people have varying opinions on it. But basically, I'll start off by explaining kind of who we are and what this is. So I run Orange Technology. It's an IT services provider. For those of you in the US, you guys are using the term managed services provider. That's pretty much what we do. We have clients. Most of our clients are businesses, governments, nonprofits, and we provide IT services for them, right? So anything from server administration to workstation fixing to managing voice over IP phone systems, firewalls, networking, all that stuff, right? And part of the service that we also offer is a residential drop-off service. Now, I'll give you a little bit of history for those of you who haven't been watching me for very long. Just over a year ago, I purchased my largest competitor in the local space. So I purchased a company that was the largest IT services provider in my space. I started Orange Technology about 6 years ago. Ramped it up, worked on it, grew it to where it is, and then we were in a position to purchase our largest competitor in the space. Since then, we've also purchased one of the smaller competitors, one of the niche market ones as well. But about a year ago, we purchased the largest competitor. Now, along with that came the lease of the office I'm actually in, and we had to fulfill the lease as part of the agreement. And this is basically a public office. So I am in the downtown core of my city. I live in Whitehorse up here in the Yukon. For those of you who don't know exactly where that is, that's in northern Canada. It's on the Canadian side of Alaska. Literally, I am 2 hours away from the Alaskan border, so not too far at all. And yeah, so I inherited the lease of this office, and this was a publicly accessible office. People knew where it was. They had big signs up. I have another office that is kind of more out of the way. It's a little bit out of the downtown area. And it's more of an office where staff work and staff go to clients. The thing is, the majority of the time, if you're dealing with business clients, if you're dealing with nonprofits, that kind of thing, if that's kind of your client base, then generally your clients don't find you, right? So they don't come to you and drop off their computers. They call you to go there. Or, of course, in the modern day, we also have things like remote support, right? So you can remote in and you can see what they're seeing on their screen and fix whatever their issue is. Again, or you're going on site, right? If they order new computers, you don't phone them up and say your computers are ready to be picked up. You build the computers, you configure them, whatever, and then you bring them on site. That's part of the service, right? So I've never had a need for a public office. Everybody knows where our office is if they wanted to come down, but nobody does, again, because we go to them, right? So when I inherited this office lease, what happened here is this was a combination office. So this was also where businesses were provided service and whatnot. So it was a starting point, right, where people would drive off from here. But it was also a public drop-off service, and this was just part of branding. This was part of how the old owner here got his name out, basically. So he had big signs up and computer repair, basically, residential drop-off service. Here's he had an a la carte options, so hard drive recovery was this much and virus removal was this much and all that stuff, right? And surprisingly, actually got a lot of walk-in traffic. There actually is quite a bit of walk-in traffic. Now, the the thing with walk-in traffic is now you are dealing with residential consumer clients. You're not dealing with businesses anymore. You're not dealing with people that you bill, every month after the service is provided. You have terms with them at 30 days or whatever it is, right? It's not the same thing. This is somebody who drops off their computer from home. They want it fixed. They're willing to pay $100, whatever it is. You fix it, they pay, they leave, right? And then generally, for the most part, you don't ever hear from them again. They may have another issue and they may come back. Okay. The idea behind it was that if somebody dropped off their personal computer and they were provided with good service and they were happy with the service and they left happy with the service, then those people all work somewhere. And if they all work somewhere, then they're going to say nice things about you. If they're happy with the service, they will say nice things to their employer. And hey, if their employer currently has an IT provider that's, not so good, not so bad, but, is what it is, then perhaps that will nudge them to make that phone call to you, and then you go and you can get a business client, right? That's the idea. Does it work? Yeah, I guess. What's the value in it? You have to remember, I live in a capital city. The population is just shy of 30,000. It's not that big. There's not a lot of competitors out there. I personally think there's different ways to get your name out there and to build your brand, where you don't have to do the residential drop-off. But anyways, that's what I inherited. I basically inherited this. I inherited this office. I inherited the established, known location where people can walk in and drop their computer off. So I just had to keep going with it. One thing I did do, and this is kind of off topic, but I will say one thing I did do is I moved away from that a la carte nonsense. That's a nonsense way to structure your pricing. Because basically what your service is offering, I call it a menu because basically a menu, basically looks like, it looks like a Chinese food restaurant that has like 200 different options and combinations on the menu, where there's like eight pages of menu items, and literally you order by giving the number because there's so many different combinations. The only way they can get it completely correct is by ordering by number, right? I've seen this in some sushi places. I've seen this in Chinese food restaurants. I've seen this I've seen it elsewhere as well. But if you've ever seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's basically what this menu looked like. Like there was everything from hard drive recovery to virus removal to installation of RAM. Installation of RAM was a different price from installation of a hard drive. Physical cleaning of a computer. Operating system reinstall. Formatting of a hard drive, secure delete of information on a hard drive. Like there was just so many menu options, and it was ridiculous, honestly. So I moved to a straight hourly rate, right? So for drop-off computer repair, we're charging $90 an hour for residential. That's basically what it is. We generally try to cap it at about 3 or 4 hours is generally where we'll cap it. Where, if we're doing a, format and reinstall, and it's just the hourly rate, we say, okay, it'll take 2 hours and something happens or something's not right, there's something wrong with the data, with backing up the data, we cap it at 4 hours. That way somebody doesn't walk in and, we spent 10 hours, here's your $900 bill, where you could have just bought a new laptop, right? So, for protection of the consumer, we do cap it, but that's basically it. So anyways, I think that's a much better model than the a la carte menu. It's, again, just my opinion, but I found that's working really well. People understand it. It doesn't matter what you want done. It's $90 an hour, right? We can give you an estimate, you need a format. I think it'll be a 2-hour job. They can decide right then and there if they're happy with that or not. Otherwise, it's like, okay, you need virus removal, and you need format and reinstall, and then you need data transfer, and then they have to add all these things up. And then if you miss something, then what do? Do you just eat that cost, or do you just do it and then build in the extra? What if transfer of data, which was, I don't know, $40 or whatever it was, what if that doesn't work out? You now have to do data recovery and it's $180, right? What if you call the customer back and, of course, half the time you can't get a hold of them. They're expecting their computer back in 3 days, right? I mean, I just like the hourly rate. It works out a lot better. From a management perspective, even from a customer perspective, I think it just works out better. Anyways, back on topic. Okay, let's say somebody drops off a computer and they need a new screen. I mean, we actually do this fairly often. We don't do a lot of hardware repair. I don't believe much in hardware repair, right? If your computer is physically broken, it's generally not worth fixing. Okay, go buy a new computer, especially if it is a laptop. I mean, you can buy basic run-of-the-mill laptops for $500-600. Why would you spend $300 fixing it when you can just go and get yourself a new one, brand new, right? I mean, if nothing else, batteries are a consumable product. Every time you charge them, every time you discharge them, they wear a little bit, and then they don't hold as much of a charge. So, I mean, really, if you got a 2-3-year-old laptop, are you gonna fix for $300, replace the hard drive, the SSD in it, or whatever, and then you have a battery that doesn't hold half its charge anyways? Why bother, right? I mean, the only time I guess that would make sense is if you spend $2,000 on your laptop. I would argue that's a bad investment anyways. I'm always a fan of getting $600-700 laptops, then changing them out every 18 or so months. That is your best value because you still have resale value in that laptop. It's not super old. It is easy to offload a laptop for $200 or $300. There's always somebody looking for a used laptop for $200 or $300. That's easy to sell. So you buy a $600 laptop, you offload it for, let's say, $200. I think you can get $250, $300, but let's just say $200. That means you've spent $400. If you look at that over an 18-month period, basically you're at $200 a year, your half year, whatever, right? My opinion is I think that's the best way to go. I think that regularly replacing your laptop and always getting a brand new one and not spending $2,000 or more on it, I think that makes sense. It is one of the reasons I'm not a fan of any of the Mac products, the Apple products. One, I personally do not like the Mac operating system. I do not like OS X. I think it's I don't think it's a very logical operating system. Where you go to find things, how you do things. And I mean, part of that is I'm not used to it. But personally, I don't like where things are located. I don't like how you interact with it. It's just a personal opinion. I can use one. I do actually own one. But again, I'm just personally not a fan. So that's my opinion. That's my personal opinion. Inherently, there's nothing wrong with the Mac operating system. I just find I don't like how it operates. I also don't like all of the proprietary stuff associated with Apple. A lot of it's very expensive. A lot of it you're stuck with proprietary things. There's a lot of stuff, accounting softwares that don't work on Mac. A lot of database stuff that actually doesn't work on Mac. That's another issue. Macs are generally not bad if you're yourself, you're just your own person, you're using your computer. If you have a larger office and you want to network a bunch of Apple products, again, Apple servers are not really They're not at the level of Windows servers. Again, my opinion, Active Directory is very powerful. It is, it is a standard for a reason. I personally don't think Apple is up there yet. And again, they're not necessarily focusing on that particular section of the industry either. So, maybe they don't care. Anyways, I don't hate the Apple product. I just personally don't like it. I prefer the Windows product. Just my opinion. That being said, one of the reasons I really don't like the Apple product is the price. You need to spend a considerable amount of money to get into a MacBook. Most of, if you're purchasing not the very bottom end, if you're purchasing kind of the middle level, you're going to spend $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 on these units. Yes, the resale value is a bit higher, but again, trying to find somebody to fork out $700, $800 for a used laptop is not that easy, right? Does it happen? Yes, but again, my opinion, and this is strictly my opinion, I don't believe the hardware inside a Mac is that much higher end than a lot of the Windows machines. I mean, some of the hard drives are exactly the same what you find in HP or Dell or whatever. So again, just my opinion. Anyways, okay, so that all being said, I don't believe that much in hardware repair. Again, that being said, we do actually do quite a few screen replacements. Screen replacements don't generally cost that much. They're, somewhere between $150 and $300 repairs. Some people want their screens replaced. One of the interesting things I've found, especially in laptop repair, is it's not so much that people want to keep their particular laptop, it's they want the data off their laptop, right? They have information on there that, of course, they haven't backed up anywhere, and then all of a sudden their computer doesn't boot or whatever, and they don't want to lose the data. Now, of course, could we just pop the hard drive out and migrate the data, recover the data to an external USB hard drive? Yes, we could, but then people have to buy the external USB hard drive and they have to buy a new computer. And in some cases, they don't have the money for that. So they want it fixed. If it's something like, they dropped and broke their screen, that's fairly straightforward, right? I mean, the screen's broken, replace the screen, you can see everything again, right? So anyways, I'll use this one as an example. I've got this HP laptop here, right? So exactly as I had said, the screen was broken. It was all cracked and bleeding. So the screen was broken. So this customer ordered a new screen, and if I remember correctly, the screen was $150. The repair took 1 hour. So basically, they wound up owing $240, which is fairly average for a screen repair. And that was back in February. That was back in February. So they brought this computer in February. We diagnosed it as, the screen's broken. They approved the repair. We ordered the screen. The screen came in about a week later. We replaced it. Took a day or so. It took a day or so after the screen had arrived. It took a whole day to replace the screen. So we replaced the screen and then called the customer back. Yeah, your computer's ready to go. Drop by any time. And they never showed up. And we called them again. Oh, yes. I'm coming back. Okay. And they never showed up. Called them again. Yes, right. Yes, I am coming down right now to pick that up. Literally, that's what was said. And they never showed up. And called them again. This time they didn't answer. Left a voicemail. And called them again. Didn't answer. Left a voicemail. And then called them one final time. Left a voice and got voicemail again. Left a voicemail and said, "Okay, you need to come pick your computer up, or it becomes ours." Okay, and this is kind of one of the contentious issues that you do have to be a little bit careful about. So on my sign-in sheets, I have a sign-in sheet that everybody signs and writes their name and address and all that stuff and phone number when they drop off residential consumer work. And on that are are some terms and conditions. And one of the terms and conditions is if you leave your equipment here for more than 30 days after any repairs are completed, then we have the right to assume ownership of that equipment, right? So basically, if we get your laptop and, we diagnose it as it's a screen, you say replace the screen, we order the screen, we replace the screen. Once that repair is completed, the day that repair is completed, a 30-day timer starts to tick. And we call you. We call as soon as the repair is done. So we call you as soon as it's done. Once we call you the first time, that 30 days starts, right? And you have 30 days to come pick up your stuff. Otherwise, it's ours. Now, this is one of these things. Do you take ownership on day 31? It's probably not a good idea, right? I mean, you have to give people a little bit of time, right? People are slow. People are busy. They don't care. They forget, et cetera, right? So you have to give them a little bit of time to come and collect their stuff. I generally give, as a rule of thumb, I generally go 60 days at least, and we call multiple times, right? So this person was called six times in total. 3 times we spoke with them, 3 times we left voicemails. The last voicemail was very, very clear. If they did not come and pick this laptop up within the week, we would take possession of it, ownership of it. And that was made very, very clear. I am always present during those calls, whether it winds up being a voicemail or whether somebody answers. Of course, you have no idea beforehand, but I'm always present during those calls. So I know that has been left or that has been said and is understood. Again, this particular laptop, this went about 90 days between all these phone calls, right? So, we got all of March, April, May, June, July, and we are into August now. It's early August when I'm filming this video. You'll probably see the video kind of mid to late August when it gets uploaded. So this is 6 months. This is half a year, basically, that we have had this laptop. And I mean, at some point, right? Like, again, don't take possession of stuff at day 31. But at some point, it's obvious that, the piece of hardware has been abandoned, right? It's gone. It's not going to be returned. Or the client, the customer is not returning to have the laptop returned to them by way of them paying us, right? And this is one of those things. You have to be willing to do this. The old owner of the competitor we bought a year ago. So again, I said I inherited all this consumer stuff. No joke. There were about 40 laptops that they had sitting on the shelf waiting for pickup. Literally over a year they have been sitting there. 40 laptops. So I mean, this takes up a lot of shelf space. When you think about this, like, this is the kind of shelves that we have back here behind me, if you can see. These are the kind of shelves that we have out in the lab area. And they were filled. They were filled with these laptops and power supplies and cases and mice and all this stuff for these people. And I mean, they were just sitting there eating up space. So I said, I mean, first thing I did, there have been a lot of changes in the competitor we bought out. They did things a certain way. In my opinion, that was a bad way to do it. I've changed a lot of things since then, a lot of procedures, a lot of, how we do things, and that's worked out. It has worked out for us. But so one of the first things I did when I came in, literally the day after the purchase, was I looked at these shelves and said, okay, we need shelf space, so we need to get these things out of here one way or another. So I called everybody again. Now, some of these people, I will say, it's not like they were being harassed to come get their stuff. They were called once or twice, and then it just kind of sat there, and nobody ever called back, right? So I'm always a fan of calling multiple times and giving people that opportunity. You don't want to call somebody once, let it go for 30 days, and then on day 31, it's my computer. You call once and leave a voicemail or something, or somebody answers, they're driving, they're busy. You got to give people a few chances at least. That's just my opinion, right? I wouldn't want to drop off my car at a mechanic, one of my company cars at a mechanic, and then they call and say the repair's done, and it's a car I don't normally drive. It's one that the staff drive, or it's a spare car, and literally we're in the middle of something crazy, something blew up, and I just forget about it. I forget to put it in my calendar to go down and pick it up and pay for it, and then 30 days later, it's not my car anymore, right? Like I wouldn't want that to happen to me, so I don't do that to others either. So I always call people a multitude of times, right? So, there's all these laptops on the shelf. They've been called once or twice. Nobody showed up, right? So I called everybody myself again. I said, hey, we've had your laptop for over a year. I'm calling as a courtesy. I was actually able to speak to most of the people, probably half, and then half for voicemails. So I call these people, the ones I talked to, I said, hey, look, we've had this computer for over a year. What do you want to do with it? Are you coming to pick it up and pay for it or not? Ironically enough, half the people said, well, look, I bought a new computer, right? Like, sorry, like I actually don't really want it. I mean, I know I owe you guys some money, and again, quite frankly, I inherited all this stuff. I didn't put out any money to fix them or whatever. So anybody that said that, I said, look, don't worry about it. We will take ownership of the computer. Don't worry about it. You're off the hook. And hey, most of those people were very, very happy. They were very appreciative of that. So, and again, it wasn't money out of my pocket, really. So that was the ones I left voicemails for. I left voicemails and I just said, hey, look, we've had your computer for over the year. You need to call us or stop by the end of the week. If we have not heard from you by the end of the week, then it's considered our property. It's completely your choice. If you want to just ignore this, that's perfectly fine. But just understand it will be our computer. I probably got I would say about 30% of those computers were picked up and paid for. Again, people just forgotten, it was an extra system, whatever, blah, 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 whatever, right? 30% came and picked them up, 70% didn't. Of the 70% that were left, there was a handful that were complete junk. They were, for example, screens broken. The customer didn't want to pay for a new screen, so they were just going to be billed the $50 or whatever it was for diagnostic, the minimum charge on the workbench, and they never came back, right? And this is some old computer, the hinges are broken, the battery doesn't work. These are junk, right? So these get the hard drives pulled, securely wiped, and then they're recycled, right? They're no good. But then, I mean, I had about probably quite a few workstations, quite a few laptops that were fine, that were perfectly fine. They were just abandoned, right? So again, well, what did I do? I went and factory defaulted everything, put the operating systems back to factory defaults, did secure wipes on the free hard drive space, so there's no data left of the clients at all. Scrubbed the operating system partition as well, and yeah, so they're basically just like factory reloads, and then just like refurbished computers, and then we sold them, right? We gave them away, or we sold them. Actually, in that case, we actually gave a lot of them away. We gave them to some nonprofits that work with people with disabilities and low-income people and stuff like that. So we just donated them, which quite honestly, that's really great for branding when you can do that. Yeah, actually, most were donated. There were one or two that actually wound up being sold. Yeah, it was a very small handful that wound up being sold, but most were actually donated. And this is one of those things again, right? Those have been sitting there for a year, right? I mean, some of those machines probably could have been sold for a decent amount of money, before they were sitting there for over a year, right? Because of course they're accumulating dust, they're getting older, etc. So, but again, this is one of those things where you have to run your business like a business. You have to treat people with respect, of course, give them the opportunity, but you also have to be able to make that decision that, okay, no, this is mine now. This is abandoned. This is mine. And there will be the odd time when somebody comes in and says, where's my laptop? And it's been like a year. There was one person out of that group of 40 whatever laptops. There was one person, and I didn't get to talk to them. It was voicemail, and they came in about a half a year ago. So this is that laptop, in theory, if it was still sitting there, would have been sitting there for a year and a half. And they came in. They were like, "Where's my laptop?" And I said, "Well, it was over a year, so actually we don't have it anymore. We took ownership of it, and we securely wiped all the data off of it." Set it to factory defaults, and then we actually gave it away to a nonprofit. That was one of the ones that was actually given away. And like this person basically, of course, lost their noodle about it. And I mean, I said, like, you're coming here for a laptop that would have been here for a year and a half. And they were completely unreasonable about it. Yeah, so you should have kept it. You should keep it until I come back. And I said, listen, this is a business. I don't have unlimited shelf space. I am also responsible for that laptop as long as it's here. If somebody breaks into the business and steals a laptop, I'm liable for that, right? It's in my possession. I don't want to keep it forever. I don't want to have that ongoing liability of having your stuff here, right? And I called you. I left messages. Did you get the messages? Yes. Okay, so why didn't you call back? Why didn't you come in and make arrangements if that's what you had to do? Well, I was busy. Well, then obviously wasn't important enough, right? And again, this is one of these things. You as a leader, you as a business owner, you as a manager, whatever your position is, if you're in that position to make these decisions, to affect these things, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared to deal with these things. And what had happened was, again, my opinion, the previous owner simply didn't want to deal with that potential mad person, right, who walks in and is unreasonable. But again, that's part of being a leader. That's part of being a good manager, a good business owner, is dealing with those things. It's going to happen. If you don't want to deal with that whatsoever, then, go and get a help desk job, the tier 1 help desk, where if you can't do something, you just bump it up the food chain and you don't ever have to deal with it. That's basically what you can do. You can, in the non-IT world, you can go and be the person that takes the orders at McDonald's or A&W or whatever, right? You're not the shift supervisor. If somebody's got a problem, you just get your shift supervisor and they deal with it. You don't ever have to deal with it. If that's the level you want to be at, then by all means, go and do that. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't want to do that. If that's your decision. But if you want to be somebody in charge of making decisions, if you want to be somebody who is a leader, a manager, somebody that makes the call, then you have to be willing to actually make the call, right? I mean, you can't say, oh yes, I will make that call. I'm going to be in that leadership position, and then just leave stuff, right? So that's my thoughts on basically repoing things. I mean, it's not actually repoing because it wasn't yours to start with, but basically I call it repoing, simply because you are taking ownership of it, and then you will do something with it, sell it or whatever. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And yeah, I will see you guys at the next video.